In this tutorial, we're going to recreate the Outlook Live website. If you have any questions for this tutorial, please leave them in the comments down below. We'll try to answer them as best we can. And even though we're recreating this site in this tutorial, I don't recommend you recreate this exactly for your project. Use the techniques you learn in this tutorial, apply them to your unique project, and just make your projects better through replicating and through paying homage to the professionally built websites like the Outlook Live website. And like I said, please leave your questions down below. If you haven't done so yet, make sure you subscribe and ring the bell for more awesome videos just like this coming in the future. My name is Bjorn Allpass for Theme Isle, and we're getting started right now. This is the website we're rebuilding today. We have the header at the top. We're going to use the Neve theme and the customizer to build that out. And then as we scroll down, we see these images animate. They turn a little bit. It's called 3D tilt. As we scroll down, we're going to use Elementor to kind of do that effect. Elementor cannot do 3D tilt on scroll. Not even Elementor Pro can do that, but we can do 3D tilt with mouse over on Elementor Pro. You can get an additional third-party add-on to Elementor that allows you to do 3D tilt on scroll, but we're not going to do that in this tutorial. We are just going to have it so we can do it with the mouse. As we will mouse over, these will 3D tilt a little bit instead of when we scroll down. And then as we get to the bottom, we have this footer that we'll build out with the Neve theme and the customizer, and that's our game plan. And this is what we're starting with. Nothing. Just as usual, a plain Jane WordPress install. We're going to pop into the back end, go to Appearance and Themes. And as we start, the 2019 theme is installed. We're going to switch that over to the Neve theme because it's lightweight, it's fast, it's minimalist. It provides a lot of features in the customizer that allows us to build out this Outlook header. It can't do super complex headers, but the Outlook header is not super complex. We're going to look up the Neve theme. This is what we want right up here in the top left. Click on Install and then Activate. We're going to delete the old theme we had on here because we don't need extra themes laying around. So we have just our Neve theme installed. If we head out to the front page, see how it looks. Very plain Jane, nothing going on at the moment. And we're going to install some plugins really quick. Let's go to Plugins, see what we have installed. We have the WordPress defaults, Akismet and Hello Dolly. I'm going to select both of those and choose Deactivate and Apply. And I'm going to select them both again and choose Delete and Apply to get rid of those because we do not need them. Now we're going to go to Add New. Going to look up Optimal, which we use for image compression, image optimization. Makes our websites load faster. Images are actually the leading cause of slow websites. And Optimal helps you easily optimize those images and load the appropriate sizes for the appropriate spaces. And it's very important to have an image optimization plugin. Optimal is a great choice. You can click on Install Now, and then Activate. Now I'm going to go to Media and then Optimal. We're going to connect our account. If you don't have an Optimal account yet, there's a free account. It allows 1 GB of images per month to be optimized, which is a lot. And if you want to get a free account, just click on Register and email API key. Just enter your email here, and then you'll be sent the API key, which you enter right here. I'm just going to log into my Optimal account and grab my own API key. Here we are logging in. Here's my API key. Just copy that. Come back to the site, paste it in, click on Connect. Now we have to wait as this connects. Don't leave the page while it's connecting, while this part is happening right here, connecting your site to Optimal Service. Once it's connected, if you have images on your site, it's going to start optimizing those. You can leave the page at that point. But you need to wait till this is connected, and then you can leave. It's connected, optimizing a few images. I have a handful of them on the site. Not much. Let's go back to plugins. We're going to install Elementor as well because we're going to need that in the second part of the video as we build out the content. Elementor is this one right here. Click on Install Now and Activate. We can close this, and we have to install Elementor Pro as well because we need that 3D tilt. We can do that with custom JavaScript, but that's pretty complicated. So we want to stick to not too complicated stuff. So we're going to go with Elementor Pro. To get Elementor Pro, you have to head out to their website, elementor.com. There's a link in the description down below that will take you here. It is an affiliate link, so if you do download and buy Elementor through that link, the email does get a credit. Doesn't make it more expensive for you to buy it that way. It just helps us keep making these awesome videos. So I'm going to head into here, download the plugin. It is now on my hard drive. I can close the Elementor account, go to Plugins, Add New, upload a plugin. Choose File, go to my Downloads folder, choose my Elementor file right here, click on Install Now, click on Activate Plugin, And now we have Elementor Pro installed. We have to connect it to our account. We could do it by copying an API key or click on connect and activate, and then it'll automatically go into our account because we're signed in right now and connect it really easily for us. I'm going to click on connect to connect this site to my Elementor account. And now we are connected. And that is all we're going to install right now for plugins, because that's really all we need to recreate this nice little homepage. So we're going to start with the header, like I said, and we're going to use the customizer inside of the Neve theme to make that happen. So let's go to Appearance and then Customize. We're starting with our blank canvas at the top here. Let's go to Header. Let's choose Site Identity. And we're going to first add a logo because we have the Microsoft logo at the very top. And to make this a little faster, I'm just going to move this working area into a new tab so we can see the Microsoft Outlook header at the top and the one working on at the bottom. Just make it a little bit faster, more efficient that way. Let's click on Select Logo. And here we can upload our files by dragging and dropping. Just going to drag and drop all these files. These are all the image files that are on the site that is downloaded from the Outlook site. Let's drag and drop them all into here so we have them. Then we don't have to upload individually as we go. And for some reason, they have the same logo in the footer and in the header. That's actually not efficient because they're making 2 HTTP requests to load 2 images. I'm not sure why they wouldn't just have a different logo or the same file for both logos because it's the same. Anyhow, that's how they're doing it. Just gonna shrink this down so I can see my select button at the bottom. There we go. Let's click on Select, skip cropping. Now we'll add our logo to the top as long as we have the site logo identity dragged into here. So if for some reason your changes don't work, make sure you have something filled into these 3 fields. We have a header top, header main, header bottom. 3 different layers of header we can create. I'm going to move this to the top one. It has a light gray background. That's default for Neve. We're going to get rid of that in just a minute using some custom CSS. But we have our Microsoft logo right on the left here. It's a beautiful thing. I'm going to shrink it down a little bit. There's a little bit smaller than that. That's pretty good, I think. On the right-hand side, there's a sign in link on that row, that level. So we're going to add the secondary menu right to the right over here. Let's click on the gear icon. Let's click on select menu. Secondary menu is right here. I'm going to click on create new under that. Let's call this sign in menu for lack of a better name. Click on next. Click on add items and just type in sign in just like they have it. Click on add. And now we have sign in on the right. Can't quite see it. Let's back out of here. There we go. There it is. Let's make sure it's aligned to the right because that's how they have theirs. Layout, align to the right. Very good. And that is our top row completed. But I want to change the background color before we move on to the next row. So let's right click on the background, click on inspect, choose, in this case, the CSS selector is light mode. As we hover over this div, can't see it, hang on, let me shrink this. As we hover over this div right here, we see it highlights that whole area that we want to change the color of. When I select one of these classes, I'm going to choose light mode, and you can just copy and paste the CSS from down below. I'm just showing you how I do it. So you don't have to do it like this. You can just copy it from down below, and it should work because the Neve theme has the same CSS selectors throughout the theme. Going to go into the CSS, type in .light mode, and type in here background color of white, and then add important to make sure it's applied. And now our background color is white, and we're ready to add the second row. This is also a great place to click on Publish, which saves our changes. If we don't do that, things we've done so far aren't saved. So if for whatever reason we're kicked out of our browser or whatever happens, what we've done is not saved, we'll have to redo it. So always make sure you're clicking Publish as often as you can. If you click on the header up here, let's click on Edit Site and Logo Identity. It takes us back to our header section, pulls up our header workspace down at the bottom here. And I am just going to head back to the main header menu. And down here, I'm going to add an HTML option to the second row, right below the first row. So logo site identity is where the logo is. HTML is going to be right below it. Let's click on the gear icon to edit it. And this is where I'm going to add the word Outlook, like they have right here. As you can see, it's different from the rest of the menu. It is still a link. It's just different from the rest of the menu to stand out. And I don't want to have to go in and add some complicated CSS to make it stand out as part of the existing menu. So I'm just going to make it its own element, an HTML element. have to add a little HTML code. A href equals pound, that is the link. You would replace this pound with the actual link destination, and that would create a link. And then we close that HTML tag with the closing A tag. I'm going to add a class, and the class allows us, hang on, I can't do two things at once. Outlook link. Okay, so the class in this link allows us to select this link with CSS using this class right here, which we're going to do a little bit to make the text bigger and make the link bigger so it matches what they have. It's not too complicated. All you have to do is exactly this. I can't paste this into the description down below because YouTube won't allow these pointy brackets. So I can't paste it down below. But again, it's pretty straightforward. I'm sure you can just copy that if you want to do the exact same thing on your site. So let's go back to the header area, and we're going to add in a menu. Don't actually have to go back to the header menu or the header area to add this new menu. Just drag and drop it from the bottom. I'm just used to going back to the main header area. Click on the gear icon to edit the primary menu. Let's click on primary menu again. Let's click on create new menu under primary. And let's just call this main menu. Click on next. And now we're going to add these three options: create free account, try your apps, and support. Click on add items. Create free account and add. Try our apps and add. Support and add. Now we have our menu set up with the same options they have. And you're not going to be building the exact same menu they have, so you can go ahead and drag and drop these if you want. And there'll be flyout menus or drop down menus, whatever you want to call them. So now support is going to be a drop down of create free account once it updates on the right. And there it is, we see the drop down. So you can rearrange these by dragging and dropping however you like. We're going to stick to what they have because we're recreating what they have. So we're going to keep it like this. And let's go back to the main menu section so we can change the layout. Make sure it's aligned to the left, so it's as far left as possible. Let's change the style to be underlined. And let's change it so the active color is the same as the item color. So we just have the underline happening. And the hover color is same as well. There we go. Now we have just the underlines. Looking good. Now let's go back. Let's drag and drop a button to the far right side. And it says click here. And we want to change that to Buy Office 365. Want to align it to the right. Want to make sure that it's inside of our area here. There we go. It was outside on the right hand side, so it wasn't aligning properly. This menu system is now vertical instead of horizontal. Let's make it wider so we have it horizontal again. Let's move it closer to the Outlook. So let's shrink the Outlook element size, or the HTML element size. Shrink that down, move the primary menu over. There we go. That's a lot better. One last thing about the button. Under General, replace this hashtag with a link. That's the destination of that button. Let's go back into the HTML section. Grab this class, just copy that. And the name of the class isn't important as long as it doesn't have any spaces or special characters. You just need to have a class in there that looks somewhat like this. Letters, numbers, and dashes, and underscores are allowed. Then we open and close curly brackets. And I'm going to make the, let's see, the font size. Let's make it 20 pixels. Let's make it 25. Let's make it 22. So that looks pretty good compared to theirs. Let's click on Publish. And let's see how it looks on the front end. Clicking X to exit the customizer. And let's preview or visit the site. Here's our menu system up here. I'm just going to zoom out because we're zoomed out on our site and theirs is not zoomed out. So now ours are about the same size now. They're looking pretty darn good, pretty darn similar. Theirs is a little wider than ours. We can change that by going back into the customizer. Let me zoom in again so you can see better what I'm doing. Appearance and Customize. Go to Layout and Container. We keep it as contained. I'm just going to change the width of the container. So let's up that to, let's just make it 1600. See how that looks. And for the content sidebar, let's get rid of the sidebar. site-wide. Publish. Come back out here, refresh. Let's zoom out again at 100%. There we go. That looks pretty legitimate. We can further customize the text inside the button, for example, making it a bit smaller than theirs, making the Outlook and the menu exactly like theirs. But then we have to do a lot more custom CSS, and I think we are close enough because I don't want you to replicate their site exactly. I just want you to learn the techniques to build a very similar site and apply that to your own site. So I think this is pretty darn good. Now we're going to go ahead and build the content of the page, which is what you see from here downwards. All these fancy bubbles in the back. We're going to use Elementor Pro for that because we need to be able to have this 3D tilt. So I'm going to refresh the page, show it to you one more time. These images are tilting in 3D as we scroll. Like I said earlier, Elementor Pro cannot do that on scroll, but we can do that on mouse hover. So we're going to do that on mouse hover for those images, and we're going to create the inner content. So let's just add these all back into one tab for now, and let's head out of the customizer. Let's go to pages and add new. Let's call this page home because that is what it is. On the right hand side, I'm going to disable the title because we don't want to have the title appearing on the home page, because as we can see on their home page, they don't have the title of the page here. Unless this is the title, we're going to assume it's not. It's going to not have the home page title. Click on publish, then publish again. And then once that's done, go to settings and then reading. Now we're going to set that page as the home page. Under the home page displays, choose static page and choose home. And that makes sure that when you go to the home page, as in there's nothing past this / or even there's no / nothing past your domain name. If we click on refresh, this is now where the home page is. So the one that we're editing, right over here under pages, home, that is now the front page. Let's click on edit with Elementor, and now we start creating our content. The very first thing you notice is the irregularly shaped images. They are throughout the background. And in fact, it is all one background image that they've created. So inside Elementor, we're going to create just one section and use multiple rows and multiple intersections inside that section to create the effect that they have. So let's go to the 6 dots here and add their background image by going to Style, Background, Classic, Image. Here's their background. Click on Insert Media. And now that background image is in place. To make it look like something right now, it'll look like something once we add content. Right now there is no content. So I just want to make sure we have it look like something. Let's add a minimum height of, there we go. That's pretty good. 898. What the minimum height is, it doesn't matter. We're going to turn that off in just a minute. It's just so we can see something there and start to work with something. And I notice that the background image is large. It's larger than it should be. So under repeat, I'm going to choose no repeat. Under size, I'm going to choose cover. And that moves it so that the image is the width of the container versus stretching across much larger. So now it looks a lot better. And now we can start building our content. We start with connect, organize, getting things done. Let's copy this. Let's add headline or a heading. Let's just paste that right in there. Let's center it. Let's go to style, under typography. Let's make it, looks like black. Let's inspect to see if this is black. No, it's really dark gray. Pound 222. And our font size is 47. So we'll keep that in mind. See if we can find the font family. Maybe we have the exact family. Segoe. I don't think we have that one. So the size is 47. And the color is 222. And let's see if we have Segoe. No, we don't. But I find that Railway is quite similar. And the font weight, see if we can shrink that weight down, which is basically the thickness of the font. A little bit thicker. Let's make that 200. There we go. We have our headline in place. Connect, organize, get things done. We'll just add a bunch of content, and then we'll rearrange it as needed to make it suitable, to make it look like it should. So let's copy that text, and let's add a text editor section right below there. Let's paste that in. We want that to be quite a bit smaller, so we're going to add a bunch of padding. Let's go into the padding, and on the right, let's try adding 200, and the same on the left. A little bit more, 300 and 300. That's pretty good. Let's center it. Wherever the centering, there it is, the alignment option. There we go. I think we got pretty close. Let's make that railway as well for the font family. Railway, and make the weight. I think the weight's pretty good as it is. Now let's create these two buttons, create free account and sign in. There are multiple ways you can create these buttons in Elementor now. They have the functionality to have buttons side by side without using columns, but I find that way a little bit hokey sometimes. So I'm going to use an intersection. That's my preferred way of adding buttons right now. And I'm going to add a button to each side. Let's add the first one there. Let's put it in the right spot. I missed. There we go. Let's change the text to create free account. Let's change the style to be the color they have for their button. You can use the color picker to pick the exact color they have, which is Dodger Blue. I'm just going to copy Dodger Blue. No, I'm not. I'm going to copy this hex code. If I was using custom CSS, I could use Dodger Blue, but I'm not. I'm using Elementor. Inside Elementor, for the background color, we want to paste in that hex code, and there it is. We want our border radius to be 0 because they have a square button, and we want ours to be a little bit bigger. We do that by changing the typography or the font size. There you go. I think that's pretty good. And now let's make it right aligned. And when you hover over there, they have a slight hover effect. It goes a little bit darker. So let's do that for ours too. Let's go to Style, click on Hover, put our background color in, the one we just copied, and just choose one that's a little bit darker. Just move this little circle down. Now I have a little bit darker. Theirs is even more darker than that. There we go. That's pretty good. I'm just going to copy this button and paste it over here. I'm going to align it to the left. I'm going to call it sign in. The same dark hover effect, but it's just not filled in. There's only a border. So let's quickly change how this button looks. Sign in. Under style, background color. Let's just copy this color and let's clear it. Let's make it transparent. Let's add a border type of solid. Let's make it 2 pixels. Let's choose the color to be the color we just copied. And the text color is the same. There we go. Now the hover color has to change. So the hover color is going to be the same as the hover color for this first button. Let's click on the second, go to hover. Background color is transparent. Border color goes to this one, and text color goes to this one. There we go. Our last trick is we have to make them the same width. So you can see these are the same or pretty darn close to the same. So I'm just going to make it a little bit bigger by adding some padding, by going to padding down here, which is going to add the padding inside of the button. So let's make it on the right hand side 100, left hand side 100. And top 20, no, let's make the top 10 and the bottom 10. 100 is a little much, so let's make it 80 and 80. I think those are pretty close. Maybe that's a little bit too much, 75 and 75. That should do it. Look at those beautiful buttons, just like they have there. Looking good. Our background is a little bit higher than theirs. We're going to deal with that later on. First, let's just get some content in there. Next up is these images. we're going to have two separate floating images that we're going to overlap, and each of them will have its own 3D tilt effect on mouse over. So let's do that by first adding one image. Let's drag and drop this image right in there. And it is, which one? I think it's this one. Yeah, that's the one. That's the big image they have here, some kind of tablet. Then they have some kind of phone. Click on it, make sure I have it selected. Choose image, and this is the phone image right here. It is quite large. I'm going to deal with that in a minute. I'm going to align this one to the right. I'm going to align this one to the left. And now, let's shrink this one down. Let's choose image size of, that's too small. Medium is too small. Neve blog, too small. Too big, sorry, too big. Let's choose a custom size, a width of 300. Apply that. Let's get pretty close. I think that's it. And then this guy's about the right size. I'm going to leave this guy at that size. And now I want to move this image higher, move it up. So I'm going to select it. I'm going to go to advanced. I'm going to go to my margin, click the link to unlock them. Unlock meaning you don't have the margins applied everywhere, or the same one everywhere. It's going to keep on pumping this margin up until we are where we want to be. I think that's pretty close. Now let's move it to the right. Let's add margin to the right. So we get a little overlap there. There we go. Now let's click on this first image. Go to advanced. Go to motion effects. Elementor free has motion effects, but it's very limited. There's a lot more available motion effects. The scrolling effects and the mouse effects are added with Elementor Pro. So under mouse effects, we're going to use 3D tilt. And as we hover, you can see right away there's some 3D tilting going on as we move our mouse. I'm going to choose opposite, maybe. I'll choose direct. Direct is the same way the mouse is going as the way it's tilting. So as you can see, as I move up, it tilts backwards. If I move to the bottom right, it tilts the other way in the direction that the mouse is. Opposite tilts in opposite ways. So choose the one you want. I'm actually going to keep opposite. I like opposite. And for this one, go to motion effects as well. Mouse effects, 3D tilt. Maybe change the speed to be 3. And now we have them both 3D tilting in opposite directions because this one is set to direct, other one's set to opposite as we move our mouse. So that is pretty neat. And like I said, Elementor can't handle this 3D tilt on scrolling, so we have to use the mouse effect or the mouse track and add 3D tilt as the mouse moves. There is no third-party add-on for Elementor. It's a premium only add-on, so it costs money, but you can do 3D tilt on scroll with that add-on. Anyway, we have that section or those images done. Let's add this text. You have to add some more negative margin to move this up. I'm actually going to just copy this area because this is pretty much the same. Same type of font for the header. Same paragraph font, just the header is a little bit smaller. So I'm just going to copy that down. Copy. And then if I can find the right spot to paste it. Let's just paste it right here. And then drag it down. There we go. Let's copy this or duplicate this and drag it down. Now in here, let's change that to Life's Better Organized. Make it a little bit smaller in font size. Align it to the left. And this text here, let's align that left as well. And let's just copy what they have. And as you can see, when we align it left, it doesn't go all the way left. And that is because of our margin, or sorry, our padding. Let's make it padding 0 on the left, and that'll move it right over to the left. Have to add a bunch more padding on the right to get it onto 5 lines like they have. So let's just keep adding padding to the right. As we can see, as the padding grows, you can't see grows, it's invisible, but we see we're growing our lines. There we go, 4 lines. Sorry, 5 lines, gotta grow even more. What's happening is the white space on the right side over here is growing as I add padding. And now we have it just where we want it. I want to add negative margin to move this up because the text is in between, or in this gap between the images, which it's not if we have it just in these rows. So let's move it up with negative margin. Click the link to unlock the values. Top margin of negative, just keep going up. And negative 233. Let's do that with this one as well. Negative 233. Let's do a little less so they're not so scrunched together. And there we go. Now the trouble with negative margins is they start doing weird things because now we have elements that are overlapping each other and possibly interacting in funny ways. For example, when I hover over Life's Organized, we see the pencil appears in the bottom right. Normally, when you hover over something, it highlights the container it's in and the pencil appears on the right-hand side. We hover over this one because we've essentially reduced the height of the element to 0 because we've negative margined it way higher than it actually is. We can find it difficult to find that pencil and even click on it because it doesn't appear when you hover down here. It appears when you hover over the text, and you can't have the mouse in 2 spots at the same time. Same thing for this text down below, and now we have overlap between the different elements. It gets tricky with negative margins. Sometimes you have to click around to find the right spot for things. Luckily, Elementor has added something called Navigator. If you click this little stack of papers here, we have our Navigator right here. It'll be laid out in sections. So right now we only have one section because we want to have the same background for the whole page. And in this section we have one column, and we have all of our content laid out in order right in here. So if for whatever reason you can't select something on the page, you can almost always select it using the Navigator. For example, this image is this first image here. This image is the second one. You can also rename these. Just double click on the name. Let's call this Hero Image 1. Let's call this one Hero Image 2. And if you do it this way, you can organize your whole layout quite cleanly and be able to select sections using the Navigator. So if we run into trouble later, we're going to use that Navigator. And I notice we have not much space up here, a little bit scrunched. I'm going to move that down a little bit. I want to have a gap of, say, 100 pixels below this intersection. Let's go to Advanced. Let's add margin bottom of 100. There we go. I like that. Let's carry on. Let's add this one. This we're going to add as another column, like an intersection like we did with these 2 buttons, because we have these 2 side by side, and we should be able to get those in a nice one clean widget. Let's copy the title. Let's look for intersection. Bring it down there. As you can see, we've brought it above the title and the text here. I want to try to move that right down to the bottom. Can't do it. So let's go to the Navigator. This is our intersection here. This is our title and our text for the area above it. I'm going to click and drag this down below so it's the very, very bottom. There we go. Just to make it nice and clean. Let's add an image into here. And let's add, I think it's this one, the calendar. Yep, the calendar. Insert that. Now let's copy this text again from up here. Paste it in here. This is easier to copy because it doesn't have all that negative margin that these ones have. That's why I'm copying these ones up here. And let's paste this one down below. Can't do it right there. Let's paste it here instead. Let's change the margins to be 0 for now. Let's change this text. Stay in touch and on time. Let's take the height from this one, which was 33, and make this one 33, so those are the same. You could copy the style and just paste the style, but that would also copy the negative margin. So this would bump that title way up. We don't want to do that. Just going to copy the size. Easy peasy. Let's copy this text. Let's paste it inside the editor. I don't like to paste it right in here because that takes CSS from the page you copied from. It is pretty convenient at times. I'll show you what I mean. Just paste it right in here. See how it adds these p tags, spans, inline CSS, and that can be convenient sometimes, but quite often it's not. So I prefer to just paste it in here and then set all the styling inside of Elementor, which we do on the Style tab. And for this case, the styling is just move that to the left. Want the title on the left or align to the left. We want to add some padding to the top of the title to move it down. You know what? Let's try something else. Let's click on this section here, this column. Let's do vertical align middle. So all the stuff's in the middle. Don't have to add padding. We can just use vertical align on columns. This image here needs to be a little bit bigger. So let's shrink this column size to make this image a little bit bigger. And let's add the same effect we have on this one. So just copy and then paste style. There we go. We now have our 3D mouse effect on hover. Not even on hover, on just mouse movement on the page. So there is a lot of movement going on because unfortunately, like I mentioned too many times already, we can't do that mouse effect on scroll. We have to do it on mouse movement. So this next section here, I'm going to build the same way as we did the previous one. Just going to flip the text in the image. So let's copy this headline and let's just copy this whole section, or duplicate it, I should say. Let's flip these around, move this one over there, this one over there, and this one over there. Change the headline. Let's get the text, copy that. And then let's just switch out the image. Super simple. It's quite large. I want to shrink down the size of that clearly quite a bit. Let's do custom and change it to 350, let's say. I think that's pretty close to what we want. This one we vertical align in the middle again by clicking on the column icon. Under layout, vertical align middle. And this 300 is still a little too big. Or 350, I should say. Let's make it 300. I think that's better. And let's add some space below this one. Advanced margin bottom of 100 pixels. I think that's pretty good. We haven't saved this page yet, so let's save. Let's click on Update at the bottom, because if you don't do that, all your work could be lost. We don't like to redo work, so make sure you save. They've made it nice and easy for us. It's the same headline, size, and font, same paragraph, and a similar button to what we have at the top. So we're just going to copy and paste different options or different things we have already and just make this section here. And the next one is going to be much the same. This is just the headline and some images. So let's get to copying and pasting. Let's just duplicate this section. Let's add some space to the bottom of this one under Advanced, Margin, Bottom, 100. Let's get rid of the second column. Right click on it. Let's click on Delete Column. Let's center this text and let's copy this headline here. Paste that in there. And let's copy this text here. And then paste that right in there. Under Style, we center it. Want to add some padding on the sides to get on the 3 lines like they have. Let's go to Advanced. Let's add padding right of 300, padding left of 300. Now we're on 3 lines with 1 word on the second line. Pretty much perfect, I think. Let's copy this button from the top. Come down here. paste it. Let's center it. And this button says Buy Office 365. And we're going to slim down the text because as we can see, theirs is quite thin, ours is quite thick. So let's change our typography from the default family to Railway, which is one we've used throughout the site. Wrong one, this one. Let's change the weight to 300. And now we're pretty darn close. Railway does this funny thing with the numbers where it bounces them up and down, which their Segui font doesn't, but we don't have that one. So we work with what we have. That section is done. Super easy. Let's duplicate it again, and let's delete this paragraph. Let's add margin to the bottom of this one. I like to try to add margins to the bottom of things as I go, just because then I always know where the margin is. Sometimes you have to do a lot of hunting to find where margin is and where it's coming from. But if you know you always add to the bottom of stuff, you always know to look in the bottom of things for your margins. Let's copy this headline and paste it right in there. And let's add an intersection right there. Let's delete this button because we are not going to use buttons. We're going to use images for these. Apple Store is the first one, I believe. Is it? Yeah, Apple App Store. Okay, and the second one, let's just duplicate this, drag it over here. Second one is Google Play Store. It's quite large. Let's duplicate this column. Let's add a new column, sorry. Duplicate this button, drag it over, replace this, get it on Windows. I want to change the size of these to be somewhat closer to what they have. I think this one needs to be a little bit bigger. It's going to be a little bit pixelated, unfortunately, but I think it'll have to do, I think. Let's see how big this one is. It is about 170 pixels. This one won't let me go any bigger. That's probably the right size anyway. Let's change this one to custom, 170 pixels wide. And then this one, same thing, custom, 170 pixels wide. Looking pretty good. Let's align this one to the right and this one to the left. Let's shrink the column in the middle. If you want to define exact column widths, you can click on the 6 dots for the section and choose a column structure from these options here. Or if you click on any one of these column icons, in that first field under the Layout tab, it shows a width percentage. So you can define them exactly how you want them. So let's make this 40 and 40 on the right and 20 in the middle. So let's make it exactly 40, like that. Make this one exactly 20, and make this one exactly 40. There we go. The App Store button is still not quite right. I downloaded these images right from their website, but for some reason the Apple App Store button did not come through as their button. So that's what happens when you copy things. It's not 100% exactly what they have, unfortunately. So now we want to move our background down a little bit because theirs, let's see where theirs starts. This yellow irregular shape is right about the height of the buttons. On ours, it's up as high as the text. So it's a little bit different. Plus we want to move this whole title down from the top a bit. So let's start to add some margins and padding. So we're going to add some padding to the top of the whole section or the whole element just to move this down. Maybe like so. And then we want to click on the 6 dots again to make sure we're on there. Let's go to Style. And for the background, we want to change the position to be custom. We want to change the Y position. So we move it down to about there. That's roughly the spot. Let's click on update, save our work, because I think our work is looking pretty darn good so far. Pretty darn good. What's nice is in Elementor and other page builders, as you're building this, what you see is what you get. So we don't have to look at the front end necessarily, because this is pretty close to what we'll have anyway. That said, we've now created all the content, so we might as well look at the front anyway. So let's come back out here, refresh our home page. And here we have our content, our 3D tilting tracks our mouse. As we scroll down, all our content is there, and we just have to create the footer at the bottom. Now the footer, when we look at it, I reassessed. At first I said we could use the Neve theme footer, but it turns out this one's a little more complicated because the Neve theme footer and pretty much any other theme footer in the customizer allows you a preset number of options, whereas here we need a couple more. Here we need to have 2 horizontal menus. The Neve theme in this case only allows us to have 1 horizontal menu, unless you do custom CSS, which we're going to try to avoid. And you have to have 3 columns with content. The Neve theme footer does not easily allow you to add a logo in the footer like it does in the header. So we're going to have to go with Elementor Pro for the footer as well. So let's head back into our site here. Let's exit, make sure updated in the bottom right. Exit Elementor, exit the dashboard. Go to Elementor templates, theme builder. Let's go to footer. Let's go to add new footer. Let's choose footer from here. Should be pre-selected already since we went through those series of steps. Let's call it site footer. Click on create template. We can choose from some predefined footers. We are going to quickly look through these. Maybe there's a simple one that they have. They don't. Let's create it from scratch. It's not a very complicated footer. So now in our working area, we can start laying out our footer. Very first thing we'll do is look at theirs again. And in fact, we're going to do the same trick we did before with the header. I'm going to pull this out into its own window, shrink it down so we see just the footer down here, and then move ours up so we can see the footer down below. It's going to move my mic out of the way a little bit so I can see more of their footer. And there we have it. Let's add a section. And let's go ahead and do the background color first, because this background color is a light gray. What that gray is, we don't know yet. So let's use our color picker. Pick a color from the web page. This little box that follows my mouse is showing what color we're hovering on. Definitely not black, so that's not working how I'd like. Not working at all. Let's see if we can inspect and see what the color is. There it is, footer background color. F8, 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 F8. Let's go back into Elementor, click on these 6 dots for the section, go to Style, Background Type, Color, and then F8 repeated 3 times. F8, F8, F8. There's our background color. Pretty straightforward. The width of their footer is the same width as their header content. So we got to make our footer content as wide as their header. You'll see more what I mean in just a minute. So let's first add another column. Let's add 2 more columns. Sorry, 2 in total. So we have our logo is going to be on the left and our menu is going to be on the right, and the middle is going to be the gap between the 2. And then I want to add another section. Let's just duplicate this. Let's remove 1 column. We actually remove both columns. Now let's duplicate this section again. And this is where our privacy links are going to go. And then this one is where our copyright info is going to go. So now we can start dragging, dropping, and plunking things in here. Very first, let's add an image to this first section and add our logo. Not our logo, Microsoft's logo. And hopefully you aren't adding theirs to your site. You're adding whatever logo it is that you need to be using. Let's change the size to... It's not changing. Let's change this to custom. Let's make this 200. Apply. Not changing either. Let's shrink the width of this column. There we go. Now it's shrinking down. About there. That's pretty good. And now you see what I mean, how it's not aligning. Like there should be an invisible line that aligns the left side of this logo with the left side of this logo. That's how the container is set up. So to do that, let's change the width of the container. Let's go to Layout. We have our content width is box, which is what we want. So I want to make it wider. That's all. Now, if you had a ruler, Actually, I don't need a ruler because we set to 1600. So this goes right up to 1600. That's perfect. If you had a ruler, I had a client once who did have a ruler, and he would measure things on the screen, which is a lot of fun. Let me tell you. Anyway, don't be that kind of person and just eyeball it. Eyeball is usually good enough. And the fact that we know that we set the header up here to 1600 and this one is now 1600, that's good enough for me. We want to add a menu. This one right here, support. Whoop, click the button. Sorry about that. Support, try free account, try our apps, which is the same menu as up here, only rearranged. And unfortunately, we can't just rearrange our menus, or we can't use the same menu and rearrange it for different places. So we need to create a new menu that goes here, and we have to create this menu right here as well. So to do that, we have to exit Elementor. We can't do it right in here, but we can add the nav menu widget right here. Then we can click on this menu screens button. Link. First, I'm going to click publish, add a condition. This is going to include the footer on the entire site, which is what we want. You could include the footer just on specific pages or specific sections or categories or whatever. You can get really granular with your footers. You can have different footers for different parts of your site if you wanted. We're going to use the same one for the whole site. Click on save and close. Then I'll click on menu screen. That takes us out to appearance and menus where we can create a new menu. So let's create our new menu. Let's call it footer 1 for lack of a better thing to name it. Click on custom links. For the URL, just a hashtag and then support for the text. Add to menu. Second one, hashtag create free account. Third one, hashtag try our apps. Super simple. Click on save menu. Let's create the legal menu. Create a new one. Let's call it footer legal. I'm just going to fast forward as I add these link options. It's the exact same process we just did. There we go. That menu's done. Click on save. Now close this tab. Now that we're back in Elementor, we have to refresh before we see our new menu options. Under menu, this drop down allows you to select different menus. It only has the two from the header, the main menu, the sign-in menu. The two we just created are not there until we refresh. Make sure you save your work before you refresh. Otherwise, your work will be gone. So now let's click on this menu widget. We have two more options, footer 1 and footer legal. Let's change to footer 1. There we have our menu with the same order as they have. Our pointer, we're going to change it to none. And our colors and things are going to change under style. Let's go to style, menu typography. Let's choose Railway as our font. Let's make the hover color. Let's choose a color of 222, which is the color we had in different areas throughout the site. And our hover color is also that, so that's good. Set menu is good to go, but we also want it aligning on the right-hand side, aligning with the edge of this button. So let's go to content, align to the right. Boom, done. And now we can adjust the width with this column section in the middle if we wanted to, but I think it's fine how it is. The second one, we want to change the content width to 1600 as well. Might as well do that for this third one at the same time. 1600. There we go. Let's just duplicate this menu. Let's drag and drop it into here. Let's align it left, and let's change the menu to footer legal. There we go. I think that's pretty good. One thing I just noticed is the space between the menu options is a little more on ours than theirs. So let's change the horizontal padding to be about that. That's pretty good. Let's click on copy and then paste style to adjust the same options on here. Got to change it back to right aligned. Nope, wrong one. This one to right aligned. But now the spacing is the same between all those links. At the very bottom, we just have a simple text editor with the text and copy, which adds a little copyright symbol. As you can see, this and copy right here is converted to this little symbol down here. And copy 2018. I should probably update that because it's 2019. 2018 Microsoft. That brings us to an important point. this thing we just built is copyrighted by Microsoft. So I'm not suggesting you copy exactly what they've done. I'm suggesting you learn the techniques that they used to create it, or a different way to create what they've created, and apply those to your project. Don't just copy the Microsoft site and use that as your own, because it is copywritten, and you definitely don't want to be publishing that kind of thing live to the internet unless you created it. So now Microsoft down here is looking pretty good. Let's make the font size a little bit smaller. About like that. Let's change the family to railway. Let's not. Let's change that back. This default is closer. Let's click on update. Let's go back out to our front end and refresh. Make this full size. And we have replicated Outlook. Let's scroll down, see how it looks. I think it looks pretty darn legit. The nice footer at the bottom, I think it's looking pretty darn good. So that's how we can replicate the Outlook Live website pretty darn closely. If you have any questions, please make sure you leave them down below. We'll try to answer them as best we can. And if you like this kind of video and other videos related to awesome Themile products, please make sure you subscribe and ring the bell so you don't miss any future videos. My name is Bjorn Allpass for Themile. Till next time, keep crushing it, and I will see you in the next video.